The Pope goes, he's a heretic. You don't need to keep your word to a heretic. So they burn Huss at the stake. One of the big things that Huss did that makes him become a real reformer is there's some relics that are supposed to be drops of Jesus' true blood that heal. But there's people saying that it's a fraud, that doesn't really heal. Wenceslas ends up appointing a commission of 3 men to investigate whether true miracles are being done by this relic or not. And so one of those men is Huss. So Huss goes and talks to this lame boy that was allegedly healed by the blood of, by these drops of blood. And, the boy's claiming to be healed, but they take his shoe off and his foot's more mangled than it was before. And there's this woman who's supposed to be blind who claims to have been healed, but she couldn't see. And so this is when Huss's belief in the whole relic system. So Huss was very much anti-relics. And, again, that's what Luther was anti. And so you see these somebody who comes to true saving faith, they don't look to relics for their answers. And so Huss starts to go, is this whole thing fraudulent? And it is led by the relics and by him being put on this commission to investigate relics. So what happens is there's a couple people from Canterbury that are affected by Wycliffe, and they come to Prague. And when they come to Prague, they see a lot of doctrinal problems in Prague, because there's a lot of doctrinal problems in Prague. But the doctrinal problem that they choose to focus on is the primacy of the Pope. They say, this isn't scriptural. This isn't, that the scriptures are primary and not the Pope. And so they go and argue, and they're banned from preaching. So it's interesting because I would disagree with their next step. But so they decide what they'll do is start to paint. And so they paint a picture of what the Pope looks like, and then they paint a picture of what Christ looked like coming in on a donkey. He draws these 2 pictures so that the people can see the contrast between the humility of Christ and the wealth and the flagrant abusive wealth of the Pope. And so the people here start to get it from the pictures. And so they start to recognize. So Wycliffe's teachings come into the university through these men. And so these men are starting to connect, and there's a connection to Wycliffe. So then you start to get back to what was Wycliffe's big thing. You translate it into the common language so that the people can read it. Right? The same thing that you see with Peter Waldo. It's the same thing, that as soon as you get the language in, and what happens here is that they're preaching in Czech, so that in Czech, the Czechoslovakians or the Czechs can actually understand the word preached. Huss served in Bethlehem Chapel up to the year 1412 when he had to leave Prague. So let me give you a little background of Huss. So what happens is there's 4 colleges at the university, and all colleges got a single vote for who or for any university things, any policies that would be set. And it started out that there were 3 of them that were controlled by the Czechs, and 1 was controlled by the Germans. But as they go on in the colleges, 2 of the other colleges start to get more Germans in it. The Czechs get really upset because Huss is the one rector who's Czechoslovakian, and the other 3 are German. So there becomes a power play, right? Because the power flipped from being Czechoslovakia, the Czechs having the control, to the Germans having the control. So the people are pretty upset about this. So they make a plea to King Wenceslas, and Wenceslas says no, that he's going to give more votes to the Czechs, so he shifts it back to being at the Czechs. And so all the German professors leave the university. Guess where they go? That's Leipzig University. Leipzig University gets founded because of Huss and because of what's happening at the Prague University. And Leipzig University gets to be pretty significant, again, with Luther, when he debates Eck. The first real debate about the things of the Reformation happens at Leipzig. So you see it again, God is spreading his word out throughout Europe through what's happening here and preparing the soil. So what happens is Wenceslas keeps not knowing what to do. Do you go with Huss, who the people like, or do you go with the Pope? It's a really hard political question. He's probably not saved. To him, it's not a religious question. It's much more a political question. Which one makes more sense? Do you side with the people, or do you side? And he keeps varying back and forth. And finally what he decides is he needs to force Huss out because Huss is causing too much trouble. But he wants to protect Huss too, so he sends Huss out to the castle. And he's at that castle until 1414, What's also happening is that the emperor is trying to rise in power again, Sigismund. And so there's 3 popes. Sigismund sees this as, this is a real opportunity to get power, right? Because you have all these popes, the power of the church is being dispersed. And again, they see it as 2 competing powers. The church wields the sword and wields the keys, and the state wields the sword and wields the key, and they don't see any separation between the 2. So Sigismund's saying, I want to be ascendancy. So he calls it for the Council of Constance. And Constance is like on the border between Germany and Switzerland and Austria. Also to get unity, because all these people are about power, how do you unify? Well, what you unify is you get a scapegoat. So what they do is they have Huss come to Constance. He's given a guaranteed safety. He goes there. It ends by them putting Huss to death, even though the promise was made that he had a safe conduct. But the Pope goes, he's a heretic. You don't need to keep your word to a heretic. Your yes doesn't need to be yes if it's to a heretic. Very Muslim, right? That's the same view that Muslims have. If you're an unbeliever, you can lie to them. So that's basically what they say. So they burn Huss at the stake. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also visit www.discerninghistory.com for more videos and other resources.